Just after noon, on a quiet Friday in New York City, a maid walked into an apartment and found one of the most beloved actresses in television history lying still. She was 87 years old. For 11 straight seasons, she'd played one of the most complicated women on American television. Tough, sharp, misunderstood, and impossible to ignore. Fans who grew up watching her had no idea her story would end this way, this suddenly, just last year. Her name is coming later in this video. So is the story of the actor who was killed off the show in one of the most shocking twists in TV history. And then, in real life, didn't get much longer either. Stick around, because this cast's story is a lot heavier than the reruns let on. Alan Alda played Hawkeye Pierce, fast-talking chief surgeon who treated the operating room like a comedy stage, cracking jokes over open wounds because, as the show made clear again and again, laughing was sometimes the only thing standing between him and the horror of what he was patching back together. Alda wasn't just the lead actor either. Behind the scenes, he became the closest thing the show had to a showrunner in its later years, writing and directing dozens of episodes himself and pushing the series, especially toward the end of its run, away from broad sitcom comedy and toward something closer to real drama about war. His career didn't slow down when Mass wrapped in 1983. He picked up an Academy Award nomination for his supporting role in 2004's The Aviator, spent years as a series regular on The West Wing, and kept working steadily in film and TV for decades. But the story that's followed him most closely in recent years isn't a role at all. In 2018, Alda revealed publicly that he'd actually been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease 3 years earlier, back in 2015, and had simply kept it private. Since going public, he's become one of the most visible faces of Parkinson's advocacy in the country, talking openly about symptoms, treatment, and staying active instead of hiding any of it. As of this year, he's reportedly still doing interviews and public appearances. But it's what happened to the actor who left the show first, and never really got another shot like it, that most fans don't remember. Wayne Rogers, 3:10-4, 50, 200 words. Wayne Rogers played Trapper John McIntyre for the show's first 3 seasons. Hawkeye's partner in mischief, the guy chasing nurses and bending army rules right alongside him. Then Rogers walked away entirely, in a contract and billing dispute with the studio that's still cited today as one of the messier cast exits in television history. His character was written off between seasons with barely an explanation. Here's the part most fans don't know. Rogers didn't fade out of public life at all. Before acting, he'd reportedly studied at Princeton and had a genuine head for finance, and after leaving Mass, he pivoted almost entirely away from Hollywood and into Wall Street, becoming a legitimately successful investor. He eventually became a familiar face on financial television, appearing for years as a commentator on Fox News business programming. The actor who played a wisecracking army surgeon spent his second act managing other people's money. Wayne Rogers died on December 31, 2015, at age 82, reportedly from complications of pneumonia. He never got the primetime send-off some of his co-stars did, but off-camera, he quietly built one of the most successful second careers in the entire cast. Gary Burghoff played Radar O'Reilly, the company clerk with almost supernatural instincts. He could hear the medevac choppers coming before anyone else in camp, finish Colonel Blake's sentences before he said them, and somehow run the entire 477th from behind a wooden desk. Burghoff was also the only actor from the original 1970 Mass H film to carry his role directly over into the TV series, giving Radar a strange kind of continuity none of the other characters had. He left the show early, midway through season 8, and did something almost nobody in Hollywood ever does afterward. He mostly disappeared from it. Burghoff was reportedly a skilled musician and drummer even before acting, and in the decades since leaving Mass, he's kept an intensely private life, reportedly spending much of his time on wildlife painting and outdoor pursuits like fishing. He stepped back from most public fan events years ago and rarely grants interviews. In an industry built entirely on staying visible, the actor who played the camp's most perceptive character quietly chose the exact opposite path. Larry Linville played Frank Burns, pompous, incompetent, and locked into a not-so-secret affair with Major Houlihan, written purely to be the character audiences loved to hate. For 5 seasons, Linville was the show's original comic villain, the guy whose humiliation was practically a running gag. Then he left after season 5, reportedly telling people that the character had simply run out of places to go. What came after was harder than most fans realize. Linville struggled to shake Frank Burns' shadow, common trap for actors who play someone audiences despise that convincingly, casting directors kept seeing the character instead of the actor. He kept working steadily in television guest spots and regional theater for years, but never again landed anything close to the cultural footprint of MASH. Larry Linville died on April 10, 2000, at age 60, following a battle with cancer. He was one of the first members of the original core cast to pass away. And for years afterward, cast reunion specials had to fill his seat with old interview footage instead of the man himself. Jamie Farr played Maxwell Klinger, the corporal who spent years wearing dresses, gowns, and increasingly elaborate outfits in a desperate attempt to get a psychiatric discharge, one of the show's most reliable comedic engines in its early seasons. There's a layer of real irony underneath the joke. Farr had reportedly served in the actual U.S. Army himself, stationed overseas before his acting career took off. Farr was also one of only 4 actors to appear across all 11 seasons of the show, and after Radar left, Klinger inherited the company clerk job and hung the dresses up for good. Farr is still around today and reportedly living a quiet life in California. He stayed close with his surviving castmates for decades, appearing at reunions, giving the occasional interview, and remaining one of the most visible public ambassadors for the show's legacy. When one of his closest co-stars passed away recently, Farr was among the first people to speak publicly about the loss. Mike Farrell stepped into the show in season 4, replacing Wayne Rogers as B.J. Honeycutt, a devoted family man whose steadier, more grounded presence gave Hawkeye a very different kind of best friend than Trapper John ever was. Off-screen, Farrell became known for something almost entirely separate from acting: decades of humanitarian and human rights activism, including vocal, long-running opposition to the death penalty and work on behalf of international human rights causes. He continued acting in smaller and independent projects for years after MASH ended, never chasing another blockbuster role but staying steadily working. Reportedly, he wrapped a supporting role in an independent drama earlier this year, still active in the craft after all this time. Farrell has also remained one of the most engaged former cast members in keeping the extended MASH family connected, showing up at memorials, tributes, and reunions whenever he can, and staying in regular contact with his surviving co-stars, including the actor whose real-life absence hit the group especially hard. McLean Stevenson played Lieutenant Colonel Henry Blake, the well-meaning, slightly bumbling commanding officer of the 477th, a guy who ran his unit with more heart than discipline, always more concerned with fishing lures than military protocol. When Stevenson left after season 3, the show did something almost unheard of for a sitcom at the time. It killed his character off entirely, revealing in the final moments of an episode that Blake's plane home had been shot down over the Sea of Japan, with no survivors. Audiences were furious and devastated in equal measure, and the moment is still cited today as one of the most jarring tonal gut punches in television history. Stevenson left the show hoping to headline his own hit series. It never happened. He starred in a string of short-lived sitcoms through the late 70s and early 80s, none of which caught on the way Masthead had, and reportedly spent years afterward wrestling with the sense that leaving had been a mistake. McLean Stevenson died on February 15, 1996, at age 68, of a heart attack. He was the first member of the original main cast to pass away, a real-life ending that, for a lot of longtime fans, felt uncomfortably close to the one his character got on screen. Harry Morgan came in to replace Stevenson as the new commanding officer, Colonel Sherman Potter, a career Army man with a genuine soft spot for his people, and a painter and horseman off-duty. Morgan wasn't new to television when he joined Mass H in season 4. He'd already spent decades building a substantial resume, including a long, well-known run playing Bill Gannon on Dragnet, before stepping into the 477th and becoming part of 2 separate iconic TV shows in one career. He kept working steadily well into his final years, racking up well over 100 screen credits across his lifetime, and by most accounts never really slowed down until he had to. Harry Morgan died on December 7, 2011, at age 96. The longest-lived member of the entire main cast, and the rare Mass-ish star who got to enjoy a genuinely long, full life and career on the other side of the war. Compared to some of the names on this list, his story is one of the few in this cast that ends the way you'd actually want it to. William Christopher played Father Mulcahy, humble camp chaplain who spent most of the show as gentle comic relief, until a handful of late-series episodes revealed real depth and quiet courage underneath, including moments that hinted at the toll the war was taking on him too. Christopher was on the show for all 11 seasons, one of just 4 actors who never left. Off-screen, Christopher and his wife adopted a son with Down syndrome, and Christopher became a genuine, long-running advocate for disability awareness and support, work that reportedly continued for the rest of his life, well beyond his years in front of a camera. Unlike some of his castmates, he didn't chase a second Hollywood act. His advocacy work became just as central to his life as acting had been. William Christopher died on December 31, 2016, at age 84, from complications related to lung cancer. His death came almost exactly 1 year after Wayne Rogers, a strange and heavy coincidence that longtime fans of the show still sometimes point out.